Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here and checking out the series. Hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all the interviews that we put out every single week and new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's a great way to keep up with your favorite artist. And I once again get to talk with one of my favorite artists, Raine Maida from Our Lady Peace. Hello.
Hey, great to be here, Kyle.
Yeah, welcome back. We were just doing this, I think, less than a year ago at this point. I mean, it was just like what, 9 months ago that we got to talk. But
yeah. It was. I mean, it's like we're in a time warp, but it goes so quickly with this whole thing. It's crazy.
It does. Well, when we had spoken last time, you had told me that you were already at work, maybe even finishing at that point the new Our Lady Peace album, which was a sequel to the 99 record, Spiritual Machines. So now we've got Spiritual Machines 2, and it's done. It's here.
It's done. It is. Yeah. I mean, we've put out a couple songs already. There's another one coming. It's a bit of a juggernaut for us. It just feels like, I don't know at what point we thought we would tackle like such a big subject again, but I guess 20 years in, because we based the book off of Ray Kurzweil's infamous The Age of Spiritual Machines, which is, a lot of futurist predictions. This was back in 2000. And it just felt like, what the time was right to maybe go back and see what Ray got right and what he got wrong. And right. I want to give it all away, but he's not a dumb man.
Well, let's
got everything right, to be honest. He put a percentage on it, but what he got wrong was based on the fact that timing, like he thinks he got, self-driving cars wrong, but we have him. He was just a few years, ahead of it. And so it's funny, but the great thing about this new record and the sequel is he makes a bunch of new predictions for the next 20 or 30 years, which is almost as fascinating in terms of what he sees the future holding.
Yeah. And I'm going to hit on those too, because there's a few specifically that I'm really interested in. But I do want to back up, though, and start there because, as you said, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago now with Spiritual Machines. First off, what you're referencing, according to the press release anyway, Spiritual Machines had 147 predictions. 86% of them were correct. Again, that's according to that. 147 predictions is kind of mind-blowing. Like that.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. But we've seen them happen in real time, which is fascinating. Like things like, he talked about the ability to replace a knee, like a knee replacement to a hip replacement to, I just shared something the other day, like cochlear ear implants. Like, so someone that's born deaf, all of a sudden giving a chance to hear again through these incredible cochlear implants. So things like that. Obviously a big issue with Ray Kurzweil is singularity. Mm-hmm. Shared another thing the other day. I can't remember where it was one of those Twitter things where someone shared to share, but it wasn't Boston Dynamics, which is that cool robotic place out of Boston. But this was like next level robotics for me, where the robot had, all the little minutia, facial movements, expression, really fluid body. I was just like, oh my gosh, we are so close to this happening.
So, if you can remember back then, I was looking at the musical landscape, and when you all put out that record, this was right after Radiohead had put out OK Computer, right around the same time that Bush put out The Science of Things. I mean, there was definitely something in the air. What was attracting you to futurism at the time?
I think technology was just starting to take hold on so many fronts, and even very personally on the music side, right, all of a sudden you had these platforms come about. We were using like a radar platform, I think, on Spiritual Machines, maybe, where you're recording to digital. All of a sudden we're recording to like 2-inch tape, and the ability to edit, sampling. I mean, Ray Kurzweil invented the first keyboard, but sampling technology, and it was just there was this big intersection, right around then, where you're really starting to see that stuff in the studio, take it on the road. I had a little digital 8-track that I kept in the back bar bus in the lounge and would just demo things on my own. And it was just starting to feel like, okay, technology is caught up to the arts, and we're obviously starting to see it in real life in different places as well. So I think anyone that had a sense of it and enjoyed it started to maybe look a little bit towards the future. And then when that book came about, it was just like, okay, we need to pay attention to this.
Yeah. It's interesting too to look at that, because that was, I don't know, a turning point for the band is the right word, but it did find the band, you all, doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Coming from the album previously before that, I don't think I realized that at the time. Like, I was in it, I was a fan, I was there and everything, but it didn't, like, I wasn't as shook up as I think it probably was in the grander landscape. What I'm getting to is drawing the parallel to now. I mean, listening to Spiritual Machines 2, this new record, it once again finds you all taking this grand detour sound wise.
I love it. I'm glad you say that. Yeah, I think it was something we needed to do, and I think we needed to do it with the first one, with Spiritual Machines 1. It just, yeah, we've never been a band to repeat ourselves, probably to a detriment, but it's never like that. We kind of capture a moment in time and then feel like that thing is bottled up. Now we need to create something different. So the fact that Spiritual Machines 2 allowed us to do that. And then I credit a lot to Dave Sitek, who were able to rope in to produce the record. And Dave is just same page. He's always been, I don't know, I'm like, Dave is kind of the leader of TV on the radio, as well as a producer. TV on the radio, probably, one of my top 3 bands of all time. And they've always been able to use technology. Well, they've been able to find great balances of like organic sounds with sampled sounds and drum programming, and that's a lot of that is Dave, obviously. So he was able to really challenge the band, I think, in ways that we haven't been as well ever in our career. So this record sounds probably most different than anything we've ever done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you were writing the songs, did you understand how they were going to sound? I mean, I don't know, the conversations that you were having with Dave at the time, or did that come later?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because we had to make it over the lockdown. So all these things were, maybe for some other people, barriers. For us, became like really great moments to explore and be creative. Because I would send something like a song like "Wish You Well." It was a demo on acoustic. I put a beat to it, a couple little things, but I knew this wasn't the direction. It was just more of like, hey, I just want to capture this moment right now. I knew this. I really like the melodies and the lyric and everything, but send it to Dave. I don't know, 10 days later, he sends me a track back. Sounds nothing like it, but I was like, oh my God, this is "Wish You Well." And so all of a sudden, I got to just be a singer. Like, literally, I got to be excited about, okay, I'm in my studio now. I'm just going to put up the vocal mic and I'm going to sing this. And that, when you're in a band, especially, I take a lot of production duties on and engineer, and I like to get in there. This was so, I don't know, it's just enlightening to just be a singer again. And Dave really kind of like afforded me that opportunity. And every time I put up a track, when he'd send something back, I just feel like, holy shit, who is this guy? Like, he's able to just totally, to like deconstruction, take everything away and build it back up where it still keeps the integrity of what we're trying to do, like in terms of the emotion, but it sounds very futuristic. And I think he knew it. He's that guy as well. He looks to the future and follows a lot of these futurists as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember the very first time I heard TV on the radio, as you were pointing out, with their song "The Golden Age," which probably was their second, third record. I can't remember, but like right then, like you knew you were hearing something well beyond.
And he calls it, even when we first started working together, because we did do Stop Making Stupid People Famous before COVID. So we were actually up at a studio in Glendale, and it was kind of more the traditional, producing a song for a band. He's like, yeah, this is. This for you guys needs to sound like future rock. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Let's do it. I love, he said it. I just love that he coined that term for us, like future rock. It just really, it had, it just kind of, it was the essence of what we were trying to do. And I know that even if we were to try to distill that, to do it ourselves, it would never happen.
Right. Well, it's a perfect marriage. I mean, I'm really loving what you all landed on in your recipe, as it were. But at what point then did you realize that, you were going to be writing the sequel? At what point did you realize it was time to tackle that? Because that didn't come automatically, right?
No, we did that first song with Dave, and then it really just came into focus, like with the direction of the album. Probably stemmed before you said about the first song, like just your take on it, or that first album. Like, it was a big shift for us, and it just felt like timing wise in the band's life, career journey. Like we needed another big shift. And so when we kind of put the two together, I got excited because, you know, we're able to get Ray Kurzweil back on the record. Even so much as we're literally about to film some holographic stuff with him. So he's going to join us on the road holographically, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it just plays to the whole future element, but yeah, just sonically as well. Like we really wanted to do this, and I, you know, for whatever reason, because Dave signed on just to work with us on that first single, "Stop Making Stupid People Famous," we're like, this is the guy to do it, so we have to do it now.
Yeah, but so the cool trick is, and I didn't instantly realize this. I mean, and not until I read about it, was that or for what it sounds like anyway, a lot of the songs are either answers to the original album or continuations to the original album. Even the way one ends and the next one begins, I was looking at that because, you know, you end with The Wonderful Future, and there it is, The Wonderful Future, for what that's become. And then the album starts with a message: we've got a long, long way to go. I mean, how much of that was planned, you know, song versus song in that way?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, you know, in a day and age where people use technology to not listen to whole albums or skip and create their own playlists, I love you know, we just had the attention and mindset and maybe thoughtfulness to like connect these things for real. Even going to, well, you know, what's interesting is ending with The Wonderful Future. Not that we're prophecies at all, but what's really interesting about the new album and Ray's predictions is that I kind of look at, you know, I'm sure we all do when we think about the future. It is, even you kind of had that look on your face, like it's very dystopian. Like we're, you know, and obviously a lot of it's dictated by film and television shows. I mean, I just watched, what was it called? Something on Apple TV. But it's, you know, another alien invasion, right? And it's dark and everything's on fire. But Ray's predictions and Ray's view of like what technology will do, it's much more uplifting. Like I'm not going to say it's a wonderful future, but it's very different to what my perception, and I think most people's perception of the future is. His is positive. It's like things like UBI.
I wrote that one down, by the way. Universal basic income. By the way, he says by the 2030s. Like we're already knocking on that door.
100%. Things like the, you know, poverty and food sources, and even like my wife would kill me. We've had these like arguments. I'm like, I'm not a climate change denier by any means, but if technology can help expedite the retrieval or like clawing back of like our climate and helping fix it, then that's not a bad thing. Of course, I drive a freaking Leaf. I take my shopping bags to the grocery store, but it's probably not enough, you know? So if technology can help really, really dig in there, then yeah. And Ray thinks it will. He'll think, you know, just by virtue of changing our food source, for what technology would do with that, you get rid of all the farming, and obviously that helps the ozone layer, and these things are triggers for other things. So I just found it really fascinating because even on the music side, it's not specifically dark. Like it has tips to it. It's much more rhythmic, which makes it feel a little bit lighter because you can kind of like move your body to it and dance a bit. So there's a lot of synergy there, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's a dance album. A few times it happens.
Exactly.
Our Lady Peace makes a dance album. But yeah, I don't let's see here. Wish You Well, a continuation of Are You Sad? And you know, things I've also read too. Holes apparently even looks all the way back to Superman's Dead. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely comes from that same inspiration, I think. You know, fast forward like 25 years, but yeah, it has ties there for sure.
That's interesting because that album itself will be celebrating 25 years in 2022. So
crazy.
Just the timing it's I mean, at some point this all starts happening anyway. It's like it's another 5-year anniversary, right?
Yeah.
I didn't actually know if these two. So before I knew about all of that, before I knew that you actually were sort of directly relating, when I heard Stop Making Stupid People Famous and I started thinking about it in the context, my first thought was everyone's a junkie. because of the everyone's a junkie, and then just the sort of the which is about something else, but I'm really just going for the titles there, and then the stop making stupid people.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like. It's hard to pinpoint like musically, but thematically, definitely, it was like trying to find those touch points where are we now? Like, because Ray, we look back on Ray stuff, but it kind of forced me to look back even on my own lyrics, and so everyone's a junkie is about buying into what quickly became like our screens, our personal screens, right, and just being trapped by these things, and the ability to create fame or I don't know, awareness or whatever, clout, whatever you want to call it, became not only disposable, but just magnified, right? It was like you can't get away from things now, where before you could just kind of turn the TV off. Like back in 2000, it was pretty easy to do that. Now it's like this burden we all carry. So yeah, stop making stupid people famous thing is really probably, it's like, that's what's happened. That's the result of everyone's a junkie, and I think I hopefully didn't want to get too I don't know, too heavy with it. I think the fact that it's a little bit dancier and a little bit tongue-in-cheek, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still fun. I mean, I think I probably laughed out loud the first time I heard it, just because that's not what I expected from you. It's it's
I mean, obviously the David Byrne and Talking Heads influence is there, and I think even the way Byrne approaches some of his lyrics as well. He's a very clever guy, but never made you feel like he's talking above you.
Yeah. It's an interesting balance too, what you're talking about with what Ray is putting here, which is futurism. He's looking to the future, but it allows you to once again take stock of everything that's happening in the present. And it's in a big picture way. I mean, even when considering a album title like Healthy and Paranoid Times, it's like this seems to always be a lane that you've excelled in, taking stock of the big picture of right now. I don't know if you can pinpoint, as you said, where that comes from, but you do it well.
I'm so fascinated by it, by the moments. And I think, I always consider myself like, I was always a kid in school, like sitting in the corner, just watching and like taking mental notes of like human interaction and, how people solve problems, how those problems arise in the first place, so there's a, I took criminology in college as well. So there's something about the psychology of trying to just figure out our brains, and why we are how we are. And so I think that stuff really lays a lot of the foundation for where I start with concepts and lyrics. And futurism just always plays in that, because it gives you a chance, or at least like a dangle of hope that you can fix things or you can change things, so that, it's kind of giving it away, I guess.
Well, then I will ask a very turn left question with everything that you just said. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I don't. And I heard an explanation that I can't repeat it. I can't even paraphrase it to where it'll make sense, but no, I don't. I think that's coming 100%, but I don't think we,
yeah. Something more Matrix style, maybe somewhere down.
No, I think it'll actually be what someone even like Elon or whoever is professing, where it's like we can't even tell. I think right now we can tell, because even by virtue of talking about, I wish it was one of those like gosh, I can't remember his name, the science guy, the new Bill Nye, but even smarter. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But yeah, there's a few tells in what we're doing now that shows that we're not in a simulation, but we see what's happening. I mean, we see what's going on with metaverse and singularity. Stuff's going to get very real very quickly.
Crazy times. Interesting times, I would actually say. One thing I really want to quickly bring up too, that we didn't talk about, because of all the looking back, a lot of OLP fans, longtime OLP fans, were excited to learn that Mike Turner is on this record, and I got to tell you, I will admit that was one of the first curiosities I had when I heard you were making a sequel. I was like, I don't know your relationship with your old band members, but I had wondered, as like, what does that mean? Does he ask any of them to come back? And here we have Mike. What's the story on that?
Well, Mike was the one that brought that book into the studio, and we were just starting to write for a new record before it was even Spiritual Machines. And so he's always been on that kind of level in terms of his thinking, and very kind of abstract. I always enjoyed him for that, and the conversations we used to have were always fascinating. So really, at the end of the day, I don't think we could have made this record without including Mike, to some extent. So he's on the recording of it, and we're even talking about the potential where we tour. I think it just, again, he's such an intrinsic part of Spiritual Machines that we couldn't avoid that, and we don't want to anyway. And I do talk to Mike. Duncan sees him in Toronto once in a while, and yeah, it's all good.
What you just talked about doing a lot of this over Zoom. Was that one of the things? Like, did you just kind of ship him some songs and he put some parts to it? I mean, how did that work?
We tried we tried actually. We got into some different musical themes, even outside of Spiritual Machines. Mike had sent me a song that, I guess, just in his spare time from the Spiritual Machines sessions that never made it, and he kind of reimagined it and sent it to me, and I sang on it, and it was like this very organic, and I don't think he even knew that we were recording or doing Spiritual Machines too, but it was kind of uncanny that he just kind of sent that song. We started having a dialogue about it and talking about some of the past things, and then it was like, hey, you know what? Let's just table this right now, because we're in the throes of finishing Spiritual Machines, but be great if you want to like contribute. So yeah, a lot of stuff obviously was over Zoom. He would just send some tracks back and forth. I ended up mixing the stuff that he did and adding Ray to it. And yeah, it's I don't know. I look back on the fact that the record in general, Ray's futurist leanings for the next 20 or 30 years, everything's really positive, and I think having Mike involved, it just increases that positivity as well.
Yeah, well, I do love the direction you all are going. I love the future that you all are creating, if I want to go there. Yeah, and then as you said in our last interview too, just setting yourself up for a trilogy 20 more years from now. I mean, that's pretty optimistic in itself. So
we'll see. I think if anybody's going to be around, it's Ray. Just a quick side story. Like, Mike and I had dinner with them in Toronto. We came spend a few days with us in the studio, and the first time we went out for dinner, he said, "I'm not going to freak you guys out, but I'm going to take this out." And the pill boxes your grandmother had like 7 days. His had like 100 of those little things, and he goes, "Try not to pay attention, but just over the course of our meal, I'm going to take pills." He probably took 100 pills over the 3-hour dinner we had. So he's on to some new shit, obviously, that we don't know. And so, yeah, when you talk about who's around to do this 20 years from now, my bet's Ray Kurzweil will be here above any of us.
Maybe he won't have to be like one of the little Futurama heads in the glass thing. He's actually going to figure it out beyond that. That's
yeah. He'll be buff and 4-minute miles.
Raine, it's always a great time to talk to you. Thank you so much for doing this again. I'm so excited about this new record, so congratulations on it.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. It's always a pleasure, man.
All right, we will see you around, hopefully on this tour too.
Yeah, definitely. We're really excited about the this whole Ray thing, doing the hologram and having it, and even though how we're gonna build the set for this tour, we've never really taken this much attention to it. It's gonna be pretty interesting. I think people dig it. It's gonna hopefully it'll do what you said about the record, because I feel like this is such a leap forward for us, even on a live front now. It's like we need to do that. We need to make a statement where it just feels like someone comes to the show and regardless of like budgets, they're just like, I've never seen a show like that. So we'll see. Awesome. We'll see what you think.
I can't wait, man. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.